What's up, everyone? So, I was watching First Take on espn this morning, and Stephen A. Smith, along with the entire panel, had this absolutely phenomenal segment breaking down how awesome that win was last night on Sunday Night Football for the San Francisco 49ers. The energy in the studio was electric as they were talking about everything that transpired in that game, and honestly, what was so great about how that Niners game played out is when you think back to everything that's happened this year for San Francisco. The panel started by acknowledging that the 49ers, for much of the year, even going back to training camp in the preseason, they've been absolutely injury-riddled and banged up at every position group. But they've maintained this incredible level of toughness, mental fortitude, and resilience that has made watching this team an absolute treat and a joy to follow. Last night against the Falcons, who were coming off that huge statement win over the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football, which was their biggest regular season victory in years, the 49ers absolutely throttled them. The Niners played bully ball and kicked the Falcons' asses from start to finish. Hey, what's up, everyone? Before we jump into this massive Raiders news, I just want to ask you for a quick favor that would mean the world to me. If you could just take 1 second right now and hit that like button, it would be incredibly important to me and helps this channel grow so much. I know it seems like a small thing, but those likes genuinely make a huge difference in getting this content out to more Raiders fans who need to stay updated on everything happening with this team. So seriously, just tap that like button real quick. It literally takes 1 second, and it helps me out more than you know. Stephen A. mentioned that Kyle Shanahan had talked about this after the game, saying he had a specific goal in mind. Shanahan wanted to get to 30 or 40 rushing attempts, and the Niners were able to accomplish exactly that. But it took everybody contributing: offense, defense, and special teams all playing complementary football. The Falcons knew what the Niners wanted to accomplish as that game wore on, and San Francisco basically said, "You know what? We're going to run the football, and we dare you to stop it." The 49ers played with this level of tenacity and physicality that wore the Falcons down throughout the entire course of the ballgame. San Francisco made a physical statement for all of those 60 minutes. The First Take crew just loved the resilience, the mental and physical toughness from this football team, the belief that they have. The belief that the Niners have to go into SoFi Stadium and beat the Rams without a bunch of stars, to win this game against Atlanta, to hang tough against Tampa Bay when you lose Fred Warner and things aren't going your way. You know what that comes down to, according to the panel? That comes down to organizational culture, and it comes down to elite coaching. That win last night was a cultural and coaching victory through and through. Stephen A. said, "You can say whatever you want about Kyle Shanahan and criticize certain things, but Shanahan has proven this year that he should be the front runner for Coach of the Year. He's demonstrated he's an elite coach in the National Football League, and the Niners are incredibly lucky to have him leading this organization." The types of players that Shanahan and General Manager John Lynch value and bring into the building translate directly to what everyone witnessed last night. Even though they're without a ton of players, and they've lost the likes of Nick Bosa and Fred Warner with players constantly in and out of the lineup on offense, they bring in football players to their organization who genuinely love the game, who fly around the field, who hit hard, who are fearless, who are willing to put their bodies on the line, who are willing to empty the gas tank every single snap. The panel asked, how many teams do you see across the NFL this year who are essentially deciding to quit on their season? You watch the Miami Dolphins, who look like a complete joke right now. The Tennessee Titans are clearly mailing it in. The Las Vegas Raiders at one point yesterday had only 30 total plays, while the Chiefs had 30 first down. Patrick Mahomes was taken out in the third quarter of an NFL game for backup Gardner Minshew. The Raiders have basically said, "You know what? We kinda quit. The season's over for us." The 49ers could have done that same thing. Trent Williams talked about this after the Nick Bosa injury. They didn't quit then. They could have quit after the Fred Warner injury, which was hard to watch. Your all-pro linebacker and the heart and soul of your team getting rolled up on with his ankle and foot, pointing in different directions. You could say, you know what? "We're just going to fold here and give up." The Niners do not do that because of the culture that's been established by Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, and the types of football players they bring into the organization. Now the Niners, with that victory on Sunday night, are 5-2 in a wide-open NFL landscape. The season is there to be had. It's there for the taking. We're seeing a young 49ers team start to grow and evolve together, where not only do they have the opportunity to be special here in 2025, but the future of this Niners franchise is looking very, very bright. Stephen A. pointed out, "You didn't feel that way after last season ended, but now the trajectory has completely changed." Keep in mind, the Falcons are a team with a ton of offensive talent. Michael Penix Jr., Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and they entered the game with one of the best defenses in the NFL statistically. Yet the Niners outmuscled them physically and won the battle in the trenches. Last night, everyone witnessed a coaching masterclass. That came down to game preparation during the week, in-game adjustments by the coaching staff, and the team persevering and believing they could win when the odds were stacked against them. That's a Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh, and John Lynch victory right there. All of this has to get Niners fans absolutely fired up, because the sky is the limit for this team this year, according to the First Take analysis. It's going to be difficult to win a Super Bowl because of all these injuries and the youth of this roster, but the panel truly believes that as we sit here on this Monday, October 20th, the 49ers are building something genuinely special for both now and the future. The show talked about how coaching and culture are everything in professional sports. Coaching and culture put you in a position to succeed consistently. When you have a stable foundation and a stable organization, whether in the NFL or in the business world, chances are you're going to be a well-oiled machine. That's what we're seeing from this Niners team right now, led by Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh, and John Lynch. When you have elite coaching and strong culture, it helps maximize individual players' abilities. You might lose a Nick Bosa or a Fred Warner, but the collective effort, due to that established culture, allows other players to rise up and fill those voids. It gives the entire roster belief that they can still be successful. For individuals who are now thrust into bigger roles due to injuries, they have confidence in themselves to perform. Look at how Bryce Huff played last night. Look at how Darrell Luter Jr. stepped in seamlessly. How the Niners collectively as a pass rush unit got after Michael Penix. How the offensive line, which had struggled mightily the first 6 games of the year, finally blocked so effectively in the ground game. They were terrific last night and deserve tremendous praise. Coaching and culture give you a game-planning edge over opponents. Last night was a coaching masterclass for San Francisco over Atlanta. Coaching and culture instill belief and a standard that if you don't love football, if you don't empty the tank, if you don't put forward 110% effort, you don't have a place on this roster. For the 49ers, you have to check all those boxes to be a member of this football team. When you have coaching and culture working together, it gives you a legitimate chance to win weekly, regardless of circumstances. Stephen A. asked the question, do you think a team like the Miami Dolphins or Las Vegas Raiders or Tennessee Titans would win a game like last night? Would they win a game like we saw a couple Thursdays ago when the Niners beat the Rams? Absolutely no chance. But the Niners can compete in these types of games with a Christmas list of injuries, and they can win these games because of 2 words: coaching and culture. Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh are showing everyone this year that they are truly elite at their positions. Shanahan has to be in the running for Coach of the Year. The fact that this team is 5-2 with everything that has transpired injury-wise is absolutely incredible. The panel thinks that's why Niners fans are enjoying this season so much, despite all the adversity. Robert Saleh is one of the best additions that any team made throughout the entire NFL offseason across the draft, free agency, and coaching hires. George Kittle talked about that after the game, praising how smart Saleh is and how he brings such great energy every single day. This is what analysts were saying after Saleh was fired by the Jets, and why he needed to come back to the Niners, and why San Francisco needed to sign him and bring him back as defensive coordinator. You're seeing leaps and bounds, how much better this defense is compared to that Nick Sorensen-led defense from last year. You're also seeing that Robert Saleh absolutely is legitimate head coaching material going forward. The panel would love to see Saleh go somewhere eventually, where they actually have a franchise quarterback and a stable foundation, unlike the dysfunctional New York Jets. Look at what his defensive unit did last night against this high-octane Falcons offense, which has weapons everywhere. You see it with some of the window dressing pre-snap, some of the pre-snap motion, how some of those plays develop. That's a legitimately talented offense. Yet the Niners' defense, basically a skeleton crew with backups everywhere, held them to just 292 yards of total offense. They shut down Bijan Robinson completely. The Falcons as a team managed only 62 rushing yards, 230 passing yards, and converted just 5 of 11 third down attempts. What an effort from this Niners defense on Sunday Night Football. Speaking of impact players, George Kittle made his return last night, and his impact was felt immediately throughout the game. Some casual fans might say, well, Chase, Kittle was only targeted twice and didn't have a catch. How valuable could he have been? But you don't just have to catch passes in order to make a huge difference, and last night, George Kittle's performance certainly backed that up. The Niners entered Sunday Night Football as one of the worst rushing teams in the National Football League statistically. In the lead-up to that Falcons game, analysts had discussed how the return of George Kittle can really open up the passing game, obviously, but especially the run game because he's such an elite blocker, and defenses have to account for his presence. With George Kittle on the field, the Niners' ground attack averaged 1.4 yards before contact. They accumulated 151 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Without Kittle on the field, it was -2. 1 yards before contact with only 12 rushing yards on 6 carries total. You want to talk about how valuable a player is outside of the box score? Turn on the tape and watch how well George Kittle blocked last night. He's an incredible football player. This 49ers offense is at its absolute best when it's balanced, when the run game is humming efficiently. It might be exciting for fantasy football folks when Brock Purdy is averaging more than 300 yards passing per game, which is his season average through 5 starts. But offensive football is fundamentally about efficiency. Offensive football, in the panel's opinion, is about balance. You win Super Bowls by being a balanced team. You can't skew toward just being a running team or just a passing team exclusively. You need to be able to do both effectively, which makes you more difficult to defend. In Kyle Shanahan's offensive system and scheme, you need to have a successful run game, because that's a huge part of the reason why it makes the quarterback's job significantly easier. It's how the scheme opens up the passing game with play action and movement. Shout out to Kyle Shanahan for making some key adjustments, where the Niners were running downhill more. There wasn't as much of the traditional outside zone running as part of them playing bully ball. There was that downhill, tough, rugged physical running attack with a lot of power concepts and physicality that led to Christian McCaffrey turning back the clock to his 2023 MVP caliber form. CMC was absolutely incredible last night, with 24 carries for 129 rushing yards, 5.4 yards per carry, and 2 rushing touchdowns. He also made his impact in the passing game, including that crucial 3rd and long conversion, which set up the deciding score to make it a 2-score game. Here's a crazy stat. The first 6 games of the season for the 49ers, San Francisco had only 9 runs of 10-plus yards total. On Sunday Night Football alone,